So when I'm starting off, what I'm going to do is, the first thing that's really helpful to do is, remember I told you before that using the horizontal method of sighting is really important. So where I'm standing here, it looks like the angle on the left of the ceiling and the angle on the right of the ceiling are pretty much equal, okay? Now that may be the case for you, or it may not be the case for you. The other thing you want to determine is where your corner is going to go. And when I was looking through the viewfinder, I need a lot more space on the left side than I do on the right side, because basically I can't see a whole lot of the right side because my drawing board covers it up. So I'm going to place the corner roughly here. And one easy way you can draw a straight line is have your little pinky run along the side of the paper. That'll help guide you. So there's a little trick there. And then, if I'm remembering correctly, that angle was about like this, and this other angle here was doing pretty much the same thing, coming up at this angle. Now, I can check those to see if they're accurate. One way I can do it is by pretending there's a picture plane in front of me, holding my pencil on that picture plane, making sure my hand is steady, rotating my arm at my shoulder, and saying, okay, not bad, we'll leave it alone. Now, in this room, that one row of ceiling tiles is at an angle. It's extremely difficult to see that angle and get it right. The only way you're going to get it right is by doing a lot of sighting, especially checking that horizontal. Now, I told you I wanted to aim to make that bottom of the window, I said about 1/3 of the way up or so, and I think I want to end it about here. Now, the bottom of the window, and again, I'm going to check it against a horizontal line, so I'm using my pencil, and it does tilt down. Now, I know it tilts down because this whole corner is in 2-point perspective, but and then I just got the idea that maybe I should be drawing a little bit darker for my video, and then I just started drawing darker, and then I ended up with like 5 lines. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to check that, and I go like that, and I usually do that, check it a couple times. All right, I need to figure out how wide to make this whole thing, okay? And what I can do is I can measure the width of that window, and I can compare it with the height. So I can measure the width of the window, okay, and then I can compare it with the height. I'll compare it with the height on the outside. So twice gets me to the bottom bar, which is kind of helpful. So the bottom bar, I think, should be about there, and if I divide that in half, so that's about half from there to there, that's about half, nope. That should be about half from here to here, maybe a little higher. All right, something in there. Okay, now what does all that mean? What that means is I saw that the width, which is about that high, so my width should be about like that. Okay. All right, so pencil width is there, so there I go. So the shade is here, the shade ends there, and then the rest of the window is like slightly narrower. So I'm just going to pull that down like that. All right, so I was thinking that this is about probably a little bit higher because I have to leave room for the windowsill in here, and there's a window frame, and each of those lines gets slightly flatter as they get further and further from your eye level. So I did that with like kind of an overhand little stroke, mostly because the tripod is right in front of my paper, and I probably would not be drawing over here on the side and trying to draw like that. Okay, anyway, I'm continuing. This, where the window is, this is a slightly less of an angle. So if we compare that to that, this should be a little bit flatter. So I think I'm going to go with that line right in there. And then the next mark here is where the bottom of the window shade is going to go. So that's going to go here, down in there, and That looks about right. This window is here, and then the next one is a little bit smaller. Now, about that eye level. If I walked over there, you would see my eye level is right here. So this is going to be where my horizontal line is, which is my horizon line, okay? And as you're drawing, if that helps you to put your horizon line in, put your horizon line in, okay? Now, my vanishing points are all the way out there, right? So does it help for me to know that? Yeah, it helps because I know at this point my angles are going to start going the other way, okay? But I cannot plot my vanishing points on the horizon line. All right, now this is going to start angling down a little bit. So if that's horizontal, that should be a little higher there, a little bit lower there. And it's, basically close enough. There's a roll in here, and I'm going to get too caught up with what's happening. But that roll is connected to this wall and not the other wall, and that's kind of how that goes right in there. Let's work on placing the cabinet. Okay, now I know full well that there is an easel that is between the cabinet and the window, but I am going to wait and draw that last because I'm going to get that cabinet in there first. So there's a very small space. I would say it's about that small. And I can measure it. If I want to measure it, I can measure the width of that space right there. I can compare it to the width of a window, maybe the center window, 1, 2. It's about half of a center window, but if I'm measuring that, I've got to kind of allow for the frame of the window. So I went about there, which is about right. So I'm just going to go here for where the cabinet is. So here I go, getting that straight line on there, pulling it on down. Okay, where's the cabinet end? I can look at where that cabinet ends in relationship to the shade, and it's a little bit lower than the center of the shade. So I find the center of the shade here. It's a little bit lower than the center of the shade, so it's about there, so it should be about there. Now, what about the angle of that cabinet? See how everything builds off of the window? Okay, angle of the cabinet, there we go. I can compare it to a horizontal line. Every time you think something looks horizontal, it's probably not. And so that's why it's a good idea to compare it to a horizontal line, and it'll show you what the angle should be. Then if you've mastered doing that thing where you're holding your pencil, even with your picture plane, rotating your pencil on the picture plane, kind of like a windshield wiper, so you can just, boom, like that. You can check it like that, okay? All right. Now, how wide is that cabinet? I knew you were wondering that. I can measure it, and theoretically, I should be keeping my head in the same spot for the same drawing. You see, because I have the camera right where my head should be, I'm doing these kind of crazy gyrations to try to, but when you work on your drawing, definitely keep your head in one place. Now I'm measuring the width of that cabinet. Always use a straight arm, one eye shut when you're sighting, and I think it's like 2/3, 3/4, something like that. So I measure it based on that shade, and then I'm going here, and it goes to about there. So I'm going to just pull that down like that. That's my cabinet. Now, there is a flag flying in front of the cabinet. It's there. I can't really see the corner if I could, and that flag goes up there and off the page. Not great planning. Probably should have done everything smaller. If I wanted to include the flag, since I can't see the flag, it was not a priority because my drawing board's private. This would angle down. What about those ceiling tiles? Now that we know where the cabinet is placed, we can kind of start figuring out where to put those ceiling tiles, okay? I'm going to drop a vertical down from where that corner of that ceiling tile is and see where it comes on the cabinet. Okay, so it's about like half, maybe a little less than half, like around there. Okay, so that's about where my ceiling tile is going to go. So I've got this angle here. That's where the next one's going to go. Honestly, when I look at that, I have to say it looks like this tilts down and it looks like that tilts up. And it is mind-boggling, and the only way you can see that angle is in relationship to a horizontal line, and that's why this horizontal sighting method is so important. That is the trickiest thing, I think, with that ceiling tile going in that opposite direction. And every time I look at it, it's like, no, it can't be, but it is. All right, so we know that's that angle. What I can do is I can extend that angle here, right? So I can extend this angle, and I can see that that other angle, believe it or not, is starting to slant up at about that much compared to that other angle, okay? Now, once I get this, okay, then what can I do? I need to draw that line. How do I see that line? Here's a trick. Watch this. I'm holding my pencil on the picture plane. I'm holding it even with the top of the what's that called? The shade, yes, okay. And then I am very steady with my hand and I'm comparing it to the next angle. The next angle is slightly more tilted that way. Okay, so if this angle is like that, the next angle is going to be slightly more tilted that way. Okay, so then the challenge is to draw that. Coming over here, this way like that, coming in there. I realize this might be a little bit light for people in the back to see, and people in the back, if you do want to move forward, that's okay. So basically, this angle's like this. The next angle should be more slanted. You see the difference? Yeah? Can you see it? All right, now, what do you do with the rest of the ceiling tiles? We can figure out where they are in relationship to the window, into the shade. So we've got one ceiling tile that's approximately here. We've got the other ceiling tile that's approximately there. And I'm just eyeing those up right now. I am not going to take the time to measure them out too much. All right, and so what I can see, I'm comparing to a vertical. I know it goes up. And now I'm going to compare it to this angle. So I take that angle, and then I compare it to the next angle, and I can see this is slanting up more than that. So that's like that, angle's more up, okay? Maybe it doesn't angle up quite that much. I can check it to there. Yep, nope, more like that. Okay, so it's a little bit less of that angled up. That's why it's always good to check stuff. Okay, what happens next? So we take that, we extend this, okay? Extend that line, and then that angle's up more like that. So this angle's like this, that angle's like that. It starts to angle up more. I can check it, it's pretty close, probably goes more like that. Now, this is coming like this, okay? And remember, this is just a rough sketch at this point. I'm going to hold my pencil there, and then I'm going to compare it to that, and I'm going to see how it goes more like that, okay? So that's basically what I do. Hold my pencil there, hold it like that, it goes more like that. So from there to there, and more like that, okay? So that's more like that. And remember, all of these are going to a vanishing point. They are not parallel. They're like a fan, okay? They're like a fan. And so I can take that line, check it, yay. Now, what in the world does this angle do here? Again, my best suggestion is you extend that line, you hold your pencil along there, and then you see how this line varies from it, okay? So basically, that's what's happening with those ceiling tiles that I see in this drawing. Okay, working down here, where do we place the easel? How do we place the easel? It seems like such a small spot, right? Okay, we're going to work like that. First, I'm going to get the table in there. I'm going to get the horse in there. I'm going to see where the cabinets are in relationship to the window panes, because everything's in relationship to the window. And it comes about, where was I? Okay, it comes about down in here. So that's about where the cabinets are, and it slants down, okay? So this slants down slightly like that. I can check it, looking good. All right, now, where does the table start? I can measure how much of that cabinet I see on the bottom, and I can compare that to the top, and it goes to about, I would say it goes to about there, okay? So from there to there, goes from there to there, that's about there, okay. Now, where is that corner of the table? When you're drawing, you don't want to line up a corner of the table to the corner of the cabinets. That's a compositional thing. It's just very confusing if you have two corners coming together in the same place. So if that's happening as you're looking at it, you just want to kind of move one over a little bit. Okay, I'm going to, again, compare that to a horizontal line. There I am, comparing to a horizontal line, hoping to be able to see that angle. I can also transfer an angle like that. And I know this angle of the table will be a little more slanted than that line, okay? Further away from eye level, more slanted. And what happens with the rest of the table? The rest of the table goes like that. It's going to be more slanted than the windowsill. So that's about like that, more slanted than the windowsill, looking fine. Looking at this area there, that's close enough. Of course, it depends where I'm standing. If I'm back here, if I'm close to there, things change. Now, if I drop a vertical down from the windowsill, I can see where that table is going to go. And that table, the corner of that table sticks out a little bit further than that windowsill. And so that's the corner of my table right there. Now, this orthogonal is not parallel to that orthogonal. They're both going to the same vanishing point. You can hold your pencil even with that back orthogonal, and then you can compare it to the front orthogonal, and you can see that front orthogonal slants down more like that, okay? So this slants down more, kind of like that. I'm gonna check it. That's like that, that's like that. Yep, that's about like that. That table has a slight angle there, thickness, that's what I'm trying to say. All right, what about the horse? Let's get the horse in here. Now, at this point, negative space is what it's all about. Now, I have been looking at negative space. I looked at that negative space. I looked at that negative space. I was looking at this negative space, where things were in relationship to the window, etc. Okay, now, the horse. Where is it in relationship to the window? If that's the halfway point of the window, I would say it's over a little bit. But first, I want to show you how to find halfway of the window. So what you can do to find halfway of the window is you can make an X from here to here, from there to there, and then you can make a line right like that, and that is halfway in the window. Now, why do we care about that? We care about that because there's a little handle halfway down the window, and also I need to know where halfway down the window is in order to figure out where to put the horse. And in this case, it's not a real horse, it's a horse that people sit on when they draw. And it's a little bit further over, it should be about there. So that goes about there, and the horse is a little bit higher than the window, and I'm gonna figure out how wide to make that horse based on this shape of the negative space, which is in there, which looks basically kind of like a square shape. And this is coming up, that's like that. This is coming down like that. Now, what's that doing? That should be doing the same thing basically the same thing that the table's doing, very close. The trickier part is probably placing that angle, which looks to be about right here. Again, I'm really looking at like that negative space in here. Okay, so this is coming this way. There goes the horse. And I have to check that angle, and every time I need to check an angle, I have to back up a little bit. That looks like it's angled down too much. If that's like that, this is like that, that line should be somewhere between the two, and it was angling down a little bit too much. So I'm going to shift that around. Okay, next thing. How long is that horse? Well, it depends where my head is, right? My head should be in the same spot. Now, I'm going to say that horse, easy thing to do, measure the top of the horse and go 1, 2, it fits 2 times. So this goes 1 to there, 2 to there, so it fits about that far. So that horse is approximately that wide. It's got a certain thickness to it in here. and it comes down there, and it's covered up mostly by that table. And then this line here, this is going that way. That line is going toward that vanishing point there. Again, we can check it, and then we can pull this down, pull that down. Where's the floor? That's the next question. In here, what I'm seeing is the thickness of this is a little bit lower than the table, and this is coming over here. That's about like that, and the baseboard is running basically like that. So baseboard is like that, probably thinner. I've gone a little bit too thick. And do you see how quickly I draw something, I judge it, I fix it? Okay, so that's how you want to like be. You see how much I check angles too, right? It's like it's relentless, and I get myself in this whole different headspace. And I know this demo's going on a little bit. So let's finish it up. This has to come down to the bottom of the floor. That goes like this. That's angled like that. Okay, so this angle should be more a little more extreme than that. This is making a little curve at the bottom, and basically that's the little horse here. Now, with that easel, that's the tricky part, but how am I going to get it on there? I'm going to get it on there really by looking at negative spaces. So I see my handle here, and my negative space starts there, and it looks like it's about that small. So I have a little skinny triangle negative space. And this windowsill here kind of comes out and down, okay? And that's about there in relationship to that angle. And now I can really look at this negative space here, and I'm going to say that that part of the easel starts about there, just really looking at that proportion of that negative space to place that angle, and I know that that's parallel to the other thing, so that is going up like this. Okay, then I've got the box, okay, the box on the easel, which is pretty much the same angle as the center of the cabinets, or at least if it was on straight, it might be a little bit crooked because it's an old thing. But that goes like this, and where is that in relationship to the windowsill? I mean, the window pane, whatever it is. That sticks out a little bit further, right in there, maybe even further in relationship to the handle. It's like a little step. Okay, so then that goes back. And now I've got a thickness for the board in here. I've got this board here that has a certain thickness, and in order to place the center line, I could use my little trick again, where I do a little X like that. If I draw through this and draw through that, I know where that corner is. I can draw an X like that. That's my center here. I can draw that center line there. That's the center board. So that X is a really, really great way to find the center of something. Anyway, that's the box. Okay. And for the rest of the easel, there's a board, and I have no idea why there's a board right up there, and that board is looking, let's see, that angle is pretty much like that. And like I said, this part of the easel is a little wobbly, maybe a little bit off. This steps back. That goes to about here. Okay, so that goes to about there. There's a little step here. That goes to about there. And this is angled, it's above my eye level, so that should be a little bit angled like that. Now this board here carries on right up through there. That carries up in there, and I should be able to see it a little bit, but I've angled it too much. And how do I know that? Because there should be less space right here. So I'm going to fix that angle. I'm going to draw through that, fix that angle, maybe the other things, maybe they're at a little bit too much of an angle. Yep. So these lines here, less slanted, less slanted, less slanted, less slanted, less slanted, pulling this up more like that. That's going to be about in there. That's about there in relationship to the top of the cabinet. I got a negative space right in here. And then the top of that is right about there. That's about here, and it's a little bit off in relationship to the top I'm gonna say that comes down a little bit lower, but that little board thing, that goes approximately right in there, and I'd have to work out some of those proportions. But I think at this point, I think you've got a pretty good idea about how to draw a corner in proportion and in perspective, and that wraps up my demo.